They always say you should be grateful for what you have. I suppose that's true. But when gratitude is used to silence you, to cage you, then it stops being a virtue. It becomes a leash. The day my son Jeff told me I could come live with them, I cried. It was 2 weeks after Tom passed. 49 years we were married. We buried him on a Friday. Jeff called me that Sunday. He said, "Mom, don't worry about the house or being alone. Just come stay with us. We've got space." At first I said no. I didn't want to be a burden. But the house was too quiet. Every floorboard groaned with memory. I was eating toast for dinner and talking to myself before I realized how deep the silence had sunk. So I said yes. I packed up the guest bedroom furniture, boxed up Tom's old jackets, and moved into the upstairs room in their house on Elmwood Drive. Megan, my daughter-in-law, smiled when I arrived. Hugged me, said she was glad I'd be around to help with the kids. I thought she meant emotionally. She didn't. She meant laundry. She meant packing lunches. She meant school pickups and soccer drop-offs. I didn't mind at first. It kept my hands busy and my head quiet. I helped where I could. Dinners, groceries, math homework. I even re-stitched Megan's good curtains when the hem came loose. She thanked me, but I noticed she stopped calling it my home after the first month. It was little things at first, a smirk here, a joke there. Once, when her sister was over, Megan laughed and said, "It's like having a live-in nanny, except she doesn't ask for a paycheck." They laughed. I smiled. I shouldn't have. 3 months in, the first big change came. Megan decided to revamp the upstairs. That meant repainting the hallway. Bright white, all modern, and moving my photo frames into a single drawer to reduce clutter. Jeff said nothing, just watched. I asked where I could hang Tom's navy portrait. Megan smiled and said, "Let's keep the vibe light, okay? That one's a little somber." I nodded. But something in me cracked. The worst part wasn't the dismissal. It was how quickly I accepted it. How quickly I started to shrink in my own skin. I started eating meals early, before everyone else got home. I stopped watching TV after 8. I cleaned dishes I didn't use. Megan once said, "You're so tidy, Helen. You're the perfect roommate." Roommate, not mother-in-law, not grandma, not mom, just a quiet fixture, like the coat rack by the door. It wasn't until my birthday that the leash snapped. I wasn't expecting a big fuss. I never did. But I woke up early that morning, made a batch of blueberry muffins, and left them on the counter. At noon, Megan came in from errands, saw the tray and said, "Oh, is it someone's birthday?" I smiled. "Mine, actually." She froze. "Oh, right. I guess we forgot. Things have been so hectic." She said it like I'd scheduled my birthday just to inconvenience them. I nodded, rinsed my mug, and quietly carried the rest of the muffins upstairs. That night, I overheard them talking. I hadn't meant to, but the vent in my room carries voices if you don't speak too loud. I heard Jeff ask Megan if I seemed okay. She said I was probably just bored, then added something I'll never forget. "She's lucky to have a roof over her head. Most people her age are in homes." My son didn't respond. He didn't disagree. He just said, "I'll check on her tomorrow." But tomorrow never came. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling and thought about that word, lucky. I wasn't lucky. I wasn't given charity. Tom and I had bought that house on Elmwood Drive. When Jeff was 10, we'd lived in it for 18 years before we signed it over to Jeff and Megan for tax reasons. We paid the property tax ourselves for another 5 years after that. I had more claim to this house than they did, but I wasn't here to reclaim rooms. I wasn't here to shame them. I was here to remember who I was. And now, I was done shrinking. The next morning I brewed my coffee slow, sat at the kitchen table, and watched the sun spill through the blinds. Megan breezed in talking about meal prep. I didn't offer to help. She glanced at me sideways. Everything okay? I smiled. Just thinking. About what? About roofs, I said. And who really owns them? She blinked. Excuse me, but I didn't answer. I just stood up, walked back to my room, and opened the drawer where I kept our old file box. I pulled out the deed, the tax receipts, the notarized letter Tom had left me, and then I called the lawyer. The lawyer's voice was calm, measured. She sounded young but firm. The kind of person who didn't fumble with words or make promises she couldn't keep. I can't reverse the deed transfer, Mrs. Baxter, she said. But based on what you've described, if your name is on those tax documents, and you contributed to the house financially for years, there's a strong argument for beneficial interest. Beneficial interest, I repeated slowly, writing it down in the corner of a napkin. It means that while the legal title might not be yours anymore, your financial contribution and the circumstances around the deed give you leverage, especially if there's no written rental agreement. There isn't, I said. She paused. Good, that makes things easier. Her name was April Keller, and she'd been recommended by my neighbor Lorraine, who said, if you need someone who knows how to hold family accountable without burning the house down, April's your girl. I had to chuckle at that, because right now, I wasn't trying to burn the house down. I was just tired of pretending it wasn't mine. That same afternoon, I started a list. I titled it Evidence of Ownership, not to fight, not yet, but to remember, to stay sharp, to know that I wasn't the crazy one, like they were starting to imply. Here's what I wrote. Paid taxes on this house from 2001 to 2006. Transferred the deed to Jeff in 2003. For tax reasons only. My name still appears on utility bills. I've lived here again since February 2023, contributing labor and care for the children. I do not pay rent, and there's no lease. I pay for groceries weekly. I have the receipts. I bought the guest room mattress they all now call mine. I am treated like a tenant, but not given tenant rights. I closed the notebook and hid it inside the sleeve of an old cookbook. Megan never touched. The shift came subtle at first. Megan began locking the pantry. Yes, the pantry. She said it was because she was trying to control snacking, but the only one locked out was me. The kids still had access. Jeff still helped himself. But when I went to grab a can of soup one afternoon, I found a padlock and a passive-aggressive note. Please ask before taking anything. Meal planning is delicate. Delicate. That was the word she used. Like feeding myself was a threat to the household balance. I didn't say anything that night. I just took a walk down the block to the corner store and bought my own groceries. A loaf of rye bread, a bag of frozen peas, a tiny jar of strawberry jam. The cashier looked at me with pity. Just for one? She asked. I nodded. For now. A week later, I found Megan going through my closet. She was holding up one of Tom's old jackets, the one with the suede collar and faded elbows, the one that still smelled faintly of aftershave. I think we can donate this, she said cheerfully. Clear out some space. Put it down, I said quietly. She blinked. Oh, I just thought you thought wrong. She flushed. I was only trying to help. You want to help? I said. Start by respecting closed doors. Jeff came in then, mid-conversation. Mom, he said, tone warning. Can we all just calm down? I turned to him. You know what Tom used to say about doors, Jeff? He shook his head. exasperated. If someone enters without knocking, they're not trying to visit. They're trying to claim. Megan scoffed. What does that even mean? I didn't answer her. I just closed the closet myself. The grandkids, bless their hearts, started picking up on the tension. Little things. Molly began whispering when she asked for snacks. Evan started knocking on my door, even when it was open. But kids aren't blind. They feel what adults try to hide. One afternoon, Molly asked me, "Grandma, why does Mommy say you don't help?" I froze. What? She said, "You just sit around sometimes. That you don't work like everyone else." I looked at Molly's innocent face, her pink headband, her shoelaces untied, and I said, "Sweetheart, just because someone doesn't see the work, doesn't mean it isn't being done." She tilted her head. Like invisible chores? Exactly. And then I tied her laces and kissed her forehead. That evening I sat in my room and stared at the photo of Tom on my nightstand. "I can't believe we raised someone who lets this happen," I whispered. I thought of the man who built that porch with his own hands, who stayed up late fixing the garbage disposal, who paid the mortgage when Jeff lost his job and never told a soul. Tom would have spoken up long before now, but he was gone, and I had let too much slide. The next day I called April again. She said, "If you're ready to move forward, we can draft a formal demand. Either they buy out your interest or the house goes up for sale." "Will that work?" "If you have the paperwork," she said, "it's more than fair. It's legal." I told her I'd think on it. Then I hung up, walked downstairs, and found Megan rearranging the entryway table. Without asking, she had moved my ceramic lamp, a wedding gift from 1972, into the garage. "It didn't match the vibe," she said. I smiled. Then I walked back upstairs and texted April, "Let's move forward." The following morning, I sat at breakfast as Megan scrolled on her phone. She didn't speak to me. Jeff walked in and muttered something about weekend plans, asked me to babysit while they hosted a dinner party. "Of course," I said. I had no intention of doing any such thing. But I didn't need a fight. I needed proof of their entitlement, and they handed it to me, day after day. Later that week, April emailed over the first draft of the legal notice. It was clean, clear, unapologetic: demand for partial buyout or intent to sell. I printed 3 copies. I didn't place them anywhere yet. I was waiting for the perfect moment, the one where the house would finally stop being a cage and start being a statement. There's something humiliating about asking permission to eat in a house you paid for. It was a Tuesday. Megan had just gotten back from one of her health coaching sessions. She'd started running out of the house. She wasn't certified. She didn't have clients. Not really. Just a few friends from Facebook and her sister Karen, who kept booking sessions mostly out of pity. But ever since she set up her little smoothie stand in the kitchen, she acted like the place was a full-scale business. She labeled the fridge drawers, put cameras near the front entrance, and locked the pantry. That morning, I'd tried to make myself a cup of tea and grabbed the granola I'd bought at the corner store. My key no longer worked. Megan had changed the lock. When I asked her why, she didn't even flinch. "Oh, I'm reorganizing everything in there for my meal prep client. It's a professional kitchen now, Helen." I stared at her. "That's where I keep my food." She shrugged. Standing there in her matching workout set like this was completely normal. "You can just ask me if you need something. I'll get it for you." Like a child, I asked, voice quiet. She raised an eyebrow. "Don't be dramatic." I walked out of the kitchen. That night, I moved a small plastic bin into my bedroom and started keeping my dry food in there. Saltines, almonds, peanut butter, the essentials. I used the guest bathroom sink to rinse dishes. It wasn't about convenience anymore. It was about dignity. That Friday, Jeff noticed the bin. He came upstairs, saw the peanut butter and crackers, and frowned. "What's going on?" I looked up from my knitting. "Ask your wife." "Seriously." I closed my project bag slowly. She locked me out of the pantry, reorganized the entire kitchen without saying a word, told me I could ask her if I needed food. He blinked. I'm sure she didn't mean it that way. She meant it exactly that way. Jeff sighed. Look, Mom. Megan's just under a lot of pressure, trying to make this coaching thing work. I don't care about her pressure, I said calmly. I care about being treated like a person, like a resident of this house, like a mother. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. You know what hurts, Jeff? Not just being dismissed, but being expected to smile through it. You want me to stay quiet? To shrink? But I won't. Not anymore. He shook his head. You're blowing this out of proportion. There it was. The phrase that always followed abuse with a smile. I didn't answer him. I just picked up my notebook and opened it to the page where I'd tucked the legal notice. He noticed. What's that? A letter, I said. From my lawyer. He tensed. Mom. Not yet, I said. But soon. That weekend, Megan hosted a brunch, 8 women, all wearing muted florals and fake laughs. I stayed upstairs, even though they'd asked me to help set the tone by opening the door and serving drinks like some kind of butler. I politely declined. You're being selfish, Megan said before they arrived. No, I replied. I'm being 74. That means I get to say no. She rolled her eyes and walked away. During the brunch, I could hear them from the vent. She just mopes around, Megan said. Won't even come downstairs. Someone else asked if I was feeling well. She's fine, Megan answered, just stuck in her ways. She doesn't really contribute anymore. That one stung. So after they left, after the last woman clinked her mimosa glass and floated out the front door, I went downstairs and cleaned the dishes they'd left behind. Megan walked in mid-scrub and looked surprised. I didn't expect you to do this, she said. I know, I answered. That's what makes it generous. That night, I moved the legal notice to the kitchen drawer, the one she uses every morning for her vitamins. I didn't say a word. I just waited. The next morning, Megan found it. I was sitting at the table with a crossword puzzle. She stood frozen, the paper in her hand like it was burning. What is this? She asked. A notice of intent, I said. To either reclaim my financial interest in this house, or list it for sale unless compensated fairly. It's all in the letter. She laughed. Actually laughed. You're joking. I'm not. You're threatening your own son and grandkids. No, I said softly. I'm giving them a choice. Her face turned a shade darker. Jeff won't allow this. It's not up to Jeff, she stormed out. I kept filling in my crossword. The answer was boundary. 5 letters. Fitting. Jeff confronted me that evening. I don't understand, Mom. Why are you doing this? I looked up at him. Because I was pushed. Slowly. For months. Into the background. And now I'm stepping forward. He ran a hand through his hair. You're going to embarrass us. No, I said. You did that when you started treating me like I was lucky to sleep next to the laundry room. He flinched. There are real consequences if you do this, he said. I know, I replied. I've lived with the quiet ones long enough. That night I slept peacefully. First time in weeks, and in the morning I called April. It's time, I said. Ready to file? Yes, would you like to meet in person or e-sign? In person, I said. Let's do it right. I took a walk that afternoon. The autumn leaves were starting to turn gold and rust, and the kind of brown that made you nostalgic. I passed the park where I used to take Jeff when he was a boy. swung him on the swings, picked leaves for craft projects, kissed, scraped knees. He was kind back then. I wasn't just a burden. I was his whole world. But people change. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they just grow into what they always were. When I got back home, Megan was waiting. She had a glass of wine in her hand, and fury in her eyes. "Do you think this makes you strong?" she asked. "No," I replied. "I think it makes me visible." "You're tearing the family apart." "No," I said again. "I'm just refusing to hold the pieces together by bleeding anymore." She didn't respond, just stormed off. I looked at the pantry. Still locked, but I didn't need it anymore. I had a key to something bigger now. The house didn't always feel like a burden. Once it had been our dream. Tom and I bought the land in 1981. Just after our youngest started kindergarten. It was a narrow plot with uneven grass, and an ancient oak that shaded nearly half the yard. Everyone said we were foolish to buy it. "It's too sloped," they said. "Too wild." But Tom had vision. He always did. He sketched plans on napkins, read construction books at night, took side jobs so we could afford materials. For nearly 2 years he worked weekends and evenings, pouring foundation with his bare hands and laying hardwood floors nail by nail. I helped where I could, held the boards steady, picked the wallpaper, painted every baseboard until my fingers cramped. We moved in on a rainy Tuesday, with folding chairs, a mattress, and a promise to each other. No matter what, this house would always be a safe place, a warm place, a place for family. I remember when Jeff was 12 and fell off his bike out front. Tom carried him inside, tracking mud through the hallway, but not caring. "That's what floors are for," he said, brushing dirt off Jeff's cheek. "This house isn't meant to stay spotless. It's meant to hold us." And for years it did. Through graduations, through colds, through long quiet Sundays, filled with roast chicken and jazz records and laughter that bubbled out of the walls. But lately it didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a cage built from my own kindness. April's office was quiet when I arrived. I wore my best blouse, the blue one with the little pearl buttons Tom always liked. I'd pressed it myself. Even though I knew April wouldn't care, she welcomed me warmly. "Ready?" I nodded. She slid over the document. "Formal filing of beneficial interest and demand for buyout or sale. It's a strong case, Helen. You have decades of financial contribution, no formal lease, and continued presence in the property." I stared at the document. My name, the property's address, legal language that sounded cold and absolute. "Do you think they'll fight it?" I asked. She hesitated. "Maybe, but not successfully. Not if you're ready." I picked up the pen. Tom used to say, "A strong decision is like a nail. Once you hammer it down, it holds everything in place." I signed, and the house shifted. Back home, I placed the second copy of the notice on Jeff's dresser. I didn't hide it. I didn't explain. By now the silence between us was loud enough. That night, he knocked on my door. "Mom," he said, holding the paper. "We need to talk." "Then talk. You're actually filing this." "I already have." He sat down heavily in the hallway chair. "You know what this will do to us?" "I know what not doing it has done to me. I'm your son, and I am your mother. But that hasn't stopped you from treating me like a nuisance. That's not fair. You let your wife lock me out of the kitchen. You gave me the laundry room. You let me be spoken over, dismissed, used." He rubbed his temples. "Megan's upset. Megan is always upset when she doesn't get her way." He was quiet. I pressed forward. "This house was built by your father and me, from scratch. We gave up vacations, weekends, comfort. You were a child, you don't remember what it cost. But I do." He looked away. "I'm not doing this to punish you," I said. "I'm doing it to reclaim my dignity." He stood. "I'll talk to Megan. Do what you must. The next morning, Megan didn't speak to me. She dropped the kids off at school and came back slamming cabinets, passive-aggressive whistling, loud phone calls about how hard it is to live with people who don't respect boundaries. I didn't rise to it. Instead, I made a pot of soup. My soup, the kind I used to make when Jeff had the flu. I poured myself a bowl and carried it to the front porch, the one Tom built with his own hands. I sat there in the October sun, sipping slow, remembering him. "Looks great, Mom," he used to say when I'd tie back my hair, "like the first day I saw you in that college cafeteria." I closed my eyes and let the breeze wrap around me. It didn't feel like a fight anymore. It felt like a return. That night, something strange happened. Evan knocked on my door. He held a crumpled drawing. Me standing in front of the house with flowers in my hand. "I made this for you," he said, "because you look sad." I smiled. "Thank you, sweetheart. I'm not sad. Just remembering." He crawled up onto the bed beside me. "Mom says you're selling the house." I hesitated. "No, I'm asking for what's fair." "Are you leaving?" "Not unless I have to." He looked worried. "But who'll read to me?" My heart broke a little. "Don't worry. I'll always be near." He laid his head on my shoulder. "I think the house misses Grandpa." I kissed his head. "I think so too." Later that night, I heard Jeff and Megan arguing in their room, muffled voices. The word lawyer floated down the hallway. So did entitled and how dare she. But then Jeff said something I didn't expect. "She has a point." It got quiet after that. In the morning, Megan didn't come downstairs. Jeff did. He made coffee. He poured 2 mugs. He sat across from me at the table. "I think I understand now," he said. "Good. I'm sorry I didn't speak, not because I didn't accept it, but because it had taken too long. I can't promise Megan will ever come around," he added. "That's fine, but I'll talk to her about a buyout, about making this right." I looked at him, really looked at him. He still had Tom's jawline, my father's eyes. He wasn't a bad man, just a comfortable one. "I'm not looking for control," I said. "I just want to be seen." He nodded, and for once he meant it. Later that day, Megan stomped out of the house with a suitcase. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't take the kids, just muttered something about going to her sister's, and slammed the car door. Jeff didn't follow her. He came back inside, looked at me and said, "She'll cool off. Maybe." She said, "You'll ruin everything." I stood and walked to the window, watching her car disappear down the street. "No," I said. "I'm just resetting it." The voicemail came at 11:42 a.m. I was folding laundry, the sunlight pooling gently on the bed, when my phone buzzed. "Megan." I didn't answer. She never called unless it was to complain or demand something. But this time, she left a message. I hesitated before pressing play. Her voice came through tight, shaking, controlled but sharp. "You're blowing up this family for what, Helen? A kitchen drawer? A title on a deed? You want to be in control so badly that you're willing to humiliate your son and traumatize your grandkids? This was never your house, not really. Not anymore. You don't even use half of it. You're lucky we let you stay this long. You don't deserve this house." Click. That was it. No greeting, no goodbye. Just that one final sentence, spoken like a knife between the ribs. "You don't deserve this house." I sat with that sentence for a long while. What makes someone believe they have the right to tell you what you deserve? It wasn't the words that hurt the most. It was how certain she sounded. Like she genuinely believed I'd overstayed my welcome in my own life. Deserve. as if my years of hard work of raising children and balancing budgets and sacrificing comfort had expired, as if being older meant I was now in debt to the younger. I got up, walked to the kitchen, took down the old photo from above the pantry, the one of Tom on the porch, holding Jeff at 4 years old. "You built this," I whispered to the frame. And I remember. Later that day, I told Jeff about the voicemail. He rubbed his forehead and groaned. "She just needs time to cool down." "She's had time," I said. "This isn't about the house. It's about respect, or the lack of it." He didn't argue. He sat in silence, watching his coffee swirl. I talked to the lawyer again, he finally said. "If you're willing, I can buy out your portion." I looked at him. "Buy me out of my own home?" His ears reddened. "That's not what I meant." "I know what you meant. You want to fix this with money." "But this isn't about money, Jeff." "Then what do you want?" "I want acknowledgement. I want my name where it belongs. On the deed. On the documents. In this family." He looked exhausted. "Mom." "No," I cut in. "You don't get to tell me how tired you are of me standing up for myself." He sighed. "Okay, then let's add you back. Joint ownership." "That's a start." That night, Evan knocked on my door again. "Can I sleep in here?" He was clutching his dinosaur blanket, eyes wide. "Of course, sweetheart." He climbed up beside me and curled in close. "Is Mommy mad at you?" I paused. "She's upset." "Why?" I smoothed his hair. "Because sometimes grown-ups don't know how to share, or say sorry." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "You're the nicest in the house." I kissed his forehead. "You're the bravest." The next morning, Megan showed up, stormed in, suitcase still in hand, and demanded to speak with me. I was in the garden. She followed me outside, high heels crunching on gravel. "You really think you won?" she snapped. "This isn't a contest," I replied, gently patting soil around the rosemary bush. "You've split the family in half." "No. I've held up a mirror. What you do with the reflection is up to you." She rolled her eyes. "This place is falling apart. You think anyone else would want it?" "It's not for them. It's mine." "Yours?" she scoffed. "You've contributed nothing for years." I stood slowly, brushing dirt from my gloves. "I contributed diapers when you were too tired to change them. Soup when you were sick. Money when Jeff was between jobs. And silence for far too long. So don't you dare stand in this garden and call me nothing." She opened her mouth, closed it again. "You'll regret this," she muttered. "No," I said. "I regret waiting this long." That afternoon, I met with April again. We drafted the new co-ownership agreement, with equal shares between Jeff and me, with clear language about decision-making, access and protections for future care. No ambiguity, no assumptions. Jeff signed it the next day. We made it official. 2 days later, Megan moved back in. She didn't apologize, but she kept her distance. That was fine with me. I reclaimed the dining room as mine again, placed Tom's old clock back on the mantel, rearranged the living room furniture the way it used to be, where conversations could happen face to face, not just aimed at the television. And I unlocked the pantry, took off the new lock, and threw it in the trash. Not because I needed it anymore, but because it symbolized something rotten. A locked pantry in your own house is the clearest sign something is broken. And now, I was fixing it. That night, I made a real dinner. Meatloaf, green beans with butter, mashed potatoes from scratch. Jeff helped peel the potatoes. Evan set the table. Even Megan sat down, stiffly, and took a plate, without comment. We ate quietly, but together, for the first time in months. After dinner, Evan hugged me tight. "Don't leave, Grandma," I smiled. "I'm not going anywhere." And this time, I meant it. My birthday came on a Wednesday. I didn't expect a parade, just a simple happy birthday, over morning coffee, maybe a card, a kind gesture. Instead, I woke up to silence. The coffee pot was empty. The kitchen was dark. The kids were already at school, and Megan and Jeff were nowhere in sight. I made my own toast, ate it at the table alone. The clock ticked louder than usual. By 9 a.m., I checked the living room sideboard, where, in years past, a card or small box might sit waiting. This year, nothing. At first, I told myself they were busy. Maybe they'd surprise me later. By noon, I stopped pretending. When Evan came home from school, he handed me a crayon drawing. It was a picture of me holding a balloon, smiling beside a big cake with 78, written in bright purple. "Happy birthday, Grandma," he said proudly. I knelt to hug him, tears stinging behind my eyes. "Thank you, sweetheart. This is the best gift I've gotten all day." "Mom said we'd do cake later," he whispered. I paused. "She did?" He nodded, then ran off to change out of his school clothes. But I didn't get my hopes up. Not anymore. That evening, Jeff came home late. He walked into the kitchen, spotted me at the table and nodded. "Hey." I waited, just a second longer than usual. Nothing. No happy birthday. No card in hand. Megan emerged 10 minutes later with grocery bags. She didn't even look my way. I helped Evan with homework, while they bickered softly in the kitchen. At 7:15, they lit a tiny store-bought cake. One of those single-layer ones with hard icing and a generic happy birthday scrawled across the top. Jeff placed it on the table in front of me. "No candles," he mumbled. "We forgot to buy some." Megan didn't join us. She stood behind the kitchen counter on her phone. "Make a wish," Jeff said, almost out of obligation. I looked down at the cake. It was dry, lopsided. A last-minute token meant to check off a box. I didn't make a wish. I stood up, walked to the cabinet, and pulled out a bottle of wine I'd been saving since Tom passed. I poured myself a glass, took a slice of cake, and walked out to the porch. Under the fading light, I finally whispered, "Happy birthday, Helen." Because no one else had. The next morning, I found it. A card, hidden behind the cereal boxes in the pantry. Still in its wrapper. It was meant for me. On the front, it read, "To a wonderful mother." Inside, blank. Not a single signature. Not even a date. Just silence sealed in cardboard. And that was when it finally broke. Not the card. Me. I took the card, walked to the kitchen, and placed it on the counter. When Jeff came in, I pointed to it. "This yours?" He looked confused. "What is it?" "A birthday card," I said evenly, "that no one bothered to fill out." He glanced at it, then away. "We were busy." I laughed bitterly. "Busy doing what?" "Ignoring me, living in the house I paid for." "Mom." "No." I cut him off. "You called me ungrateful when I stood up for myself. Your wife said I was lucky to have a roof. You both acted like I was some freeloader you were putting up with out of pity. That's not true. You left me a card you couldn't be bothered to sign. That's the truth." He rubbed his forehead. "We forgot. I'm sorry." I leaned in, voice cold now. "You forgot my birthday. But you remembered to use my name to get a refinance last year. You remembered to list my pantry on your renovation budget. You remembered to call it your home every time company came over." He looked stunned, speechless. "I don't want apologies," I said. "I want you to remember who built this life for you." Later that afternoon, I visited the attorney again. I showed her the co-ownership agreement. "I want to amend it," I said. April raised an eyebrow. "Change of heart?" "No," I said. change of clarity. We added a clause: if I ever choose to sell, Jeff has the right to buy first. But if he refuses or delays, I can sell to anyone I please. We added language to protect my room, my porch, my right to live in peace. No room for misinterpretation. April leaned back. You sure you want to go this far? I should have gone this far 10 years ago. She nodded. Then I'll file it. That night, Jeff approached me. Evan told me you cried on the porch, he said. I didn't answer. Mom, I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't have to mean it. You just had to do it. He sat beside me. I've been thinking about Dad a lot lately, he said quietly. How proud he was of this place. Of you. I looked at him. He used to say you were the glue. I was, I said. Until you all stopped sticking. He swallowed hard. I don't want to lose you. You already did, I said. Now you have to earn me back. The next morning, I found a new card on my nightstand. This one was signed. Mom, I'm sorry. I forgot what really matters. I love you, Jeff. I stared at it a long time, then tucked it into the drawer beside Tom's photo, not because I forgave him, but because I wasn't ready to throw it away just yet. It started with a for sale sign. Not a loud announcement. No dramatic family meeting. Just a quiet metal post, hammered into the front lawn before the sun came up. Jeff was still asleep. Megan too. Only Evan saw me through the window. His little hands pressed to the glass, watching as I straightened the sign like a flag declaring freedom. The house was officially listed. After nearly 40 years, April had arranged everything. A discreet listing, private showings only. No public open houses. She knew I didn't want a spectacle, just results. And results came fast. By lunchtime, 3 offers had come in. One from a couple relocating from Seattle. One from a retired teacher who wanted a garden. And one all-cash offer from a woman named Belinda who said she didn't even need a walkthrough. She just wanted peace and quiet, and the pictures online were enough. That last one made me smile. Peace and quiet, that used to be my only wish. Jeff didn't notice the sign until after work. I was on the porch, knitting. He walked past it 3 times before he finally did a double take. Then he froze. Mom, he said, voice tight. What is this? I didn't look up. Looks like a for sale sign to me. You can't be serious. I set the knitting aside. I'm tired, Jeff. Tired of waiting for respect in a house I paid for. Tired of being treated like a guest in my own life. His hands curled into fists. You said you wouldn't kick us out, and I'm not, I said. I'm selling my share. You're welcome to buy it. He looked like I'd slapped him. Do you know what this will do to us? Yes, I said simply. Maybe it'll teach you to never tell someone they're lucky to have what they built with their own hands. Megan stormed down the stairs 10 minutes later. You can't just sell this house. I can't. And I am. This is Evan's home. I stood up, and it was mine for 4 decades. But you turned it into a hallway between your priorities, a place where I could cook and clean but not live. You're being emotional. No, I said sharply. I was emotional when you gave me laundry soap for my birthday and told me the guest room was too big for me. This, I gestured to the sign. This is logic. Jeff tried reasoning. Can we talk about this? Come to a compromise? I shook my head. I already compromised. For years, I let the guest room go. I stayed silent when you refinanced using my credit. I accepted half-hearted birthday cakes and unopened cards. This is not revenge. This is reality. Where will you go? I smiled. I have options. And I did. Belinda, the all-cash buyer, had included a personal note with her offer. She had a small cottage downtown, empty, but fully furnished. She'd let me live there rent-free for a year as part of the purchase deal, while she renovated the main house, a soft landing, with windows, and quiet, and a garden. The next day, Evan brought me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, carefully cut in triangles. "I don't want you to go," he said. I hugged him. "I don't want to go, either, sweet boy. But sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices to protect their hearts." He frowned. "Will I still see you?" "Of course. Always." He didn't say anything after that. He just sat beside me on the porch, munching quietly, watching the wind ripple the grass around the for sale sign like it belonged there. Within 48 hours, Belinda's offer was finalized. Jeff's face turned pale when I handed him the paperwork. "You're really doing this?" "I already did. I don't know if we can afford to buy it from her." "Then you'll have to move. Like you told me I should." Megan didn't speak to me for the rest of the week. Jeff, to his credit, began packing. The house shifted in those final days, not physically, but emotionally. It felt like a balloon slowly deflating. The energy changed. Megan became quieter, more cautious. Jeff walked like he was on eggshells, no longer stomping through the hallway like it was his runway. Even the children noticed. "Is the house sick?" Evan asked. "No," I said gently. "It's just getting ready for something new." I spent my final night in that house alone. Jeff and Megan had taken the kids to her sister's. The place was still and warm, the way it used to be. I wandered through each room, touching door frames, remembering Tom's laugh in the living room, the way we used to slow dance in the kitchen. Jeff's height chart, etched into the side of the pantry door. I paused there longest, his little pencil marks climbing up the wood like vines. I'd leave that behind. Let the next family wonder who grew here. In my old bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and looked out the window. The same window I'd stared through after Tom passed, after Evan was born, after Megan first rolled her eyes at me and said, "You're just lucky to be here." But now I wasn't staring. I was looking at what I'd done, what I'd protected, what I'd reclaimed. When Jeff returned the next day, he stood at the door. He didn't come in. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know. I wish I'd done better. I wish you had too. I'll miss you. I'll miss Evan." He looked down. "I don't hate you," I added. "I just finally chose me." He nodded. And then he was gone. The cottage was smaller than I expected. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath and a kitchen just big enough for a round table and 2 chairs. The windows didn't shut all the way, and the floors creaked when you stepped in the wrong spot. But it was mine for now. And most of all, it was quiet. There were no footsteps stomping above my head, no doors slamming, no sighs or whispers when I walked into the room. I could hear the birds again. I could hear myself again. It was the first time in years I had peace. Belinda visited the house the day after I moved in. She texted me a photo of the pantry door, the one with Jeff's childhood height chart still etched into the frame. She wrote, "We're keeping this. Some things deserve to stay." I stared at the picture for a long time, not out of regret, but gratitude. Someone else finally saw value in the parts of the house no one else noticed. Back at the cottage, I fell into a rhythm. Mornings with black coffee and the local newspaper. Afternoons tending the small garden plot out back, which I'd filled with rosemary, tomatoes, and a tiny lemon tree someone had left behind. Evenings with soft jazz and a knitting project I'd neglected for too long. There was no yelling, no cold shoulder, no "You're lucky" comments disguised as kindness, just silence. Healing silence. Evan called every weekend, Sometimes just to talk about school, sometimes to read me a comic book over the phone. Once he sent me a drawing of Grandma's new castle, complete with a flag that had my name on it. He told me Megan didn't like him bringing me up. She says you were mean to Daddy, he said once. I paused, then replied softly, sometimes people say things when they feel hurt. It doesn't always mean it's true. Daddy misses you. I miss him too, but I didn't offer to come back. Some bridges don't need to be rebuilt. They need to be left as reminders. About a month after the sale closed, I got a letter in the mail. From Jeff, handwritten, no return address. Inside, 3 pages of apologies. He told me he'd underestimated how much I meant to the home. That the house felt cold now, even with the heat on. That Megan still wasn't speaking to him the way she used to. And that he'd turned down a job transfer in another state. Because in his words, I need to stay close in case you ever let me back in. He ended the letter with, I thought the house was mine, but it was never about walls or keys. It was about you, and I'm sorry. I read it 3 times, folded it carefully, then tucked it behind the photo of Tom and me on the porch swing. My favorite picture, the one where I look happiest, because I was. Later that week, Belinda invited me back to the house for tea. I hesitated, but curiosity won. When I walked in, I barely recognized it. The walls had been painted soft cream. The old couch was gone, replaced with a simple linen one. There were flowers in the hallway again, real ones. And in the dining room, the table had been moved so that it faced the morning light. I felt like it deserved more sun, she said. I smiled. Then I noticed something else. On the fireplace mantel sat a frame. Inside, a photo of the house when Tom first bought it. I must have left it behind in the move, Belinda said. I found it in the hall closet. I figured it belonged right here. I wanted to hug her. Instead, I said, thank you for seeing the things that matter. She poured the tea. You know, she said, you should write your story down someday. There's a lot of people who would do exactly what you did, if they just knew it was okay. I looked around the home, not mine anymore, but still full of me. I think I already did, I said. Jeff showed up one day in early spring. No warning, no call. He stood at the edge of my garden, hands in his pockets, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. I didn't come to change your mind, he said. I nodded. Good. I just came to say thank you for the roof and everything under it. We stood in silence for a while. Then I said, you know what Megan said that day, that I didn't deserve the house. He looked down. She was wrong. I know, but I needed to hear it, because it reminded me to take it back. I get it now, he said. You weren't trying to punish us. No, I said. I was saving myself. He took a slow breath. I still miss you. I miss you too. And this time, it didn't hurt to say it. On my birthday this year, Evan showed up with a homemade cake and a big hug. No balloons, no chaos, just a single candle. He said, you get to make a wish, Grandma. I closed my eyes, and for the first time, I didn't wish for things to be different. I just wished more mornings like this.